If I was a media director, it would be the thing that would be keeping me awake at night. If you're not on top of the digital supply chain, there are so many ways, so many risky ways of wasting money, just burning money. It's not as if you're reaching the wrong type of people. You're not reaching people at all.
Hello from New York.
Greetings from London.
We are back. We're back with the MediaSnack, and it's the end of the year. So you might know that our tradition on MediaSnack is that at the end of every year, we do a quick rundown of the year and we spell it out. 10 things that are really important. And we spell it out with the word MediaSnack. So it's good to be back. Let's have a think about what's been going on in 2024. And we'll start with the letter M. Let's go. So M is for Mark Ritson.
Whoa. Stop. We have a new M.
We do. We recorded this show just before the merger announcement this week. So, okay, M is different M. Sorry, Mark Ritson. We'll come back to you. Mark's a great guest on a MediaSnack Meets coming up, so you'll see that. The actual M for 2024, late arrival, is the Madison Avenue mega merger announced on Monday. Big impact for media. It's like lots of M's. So that is where we're going to start.
So what's going on, Tom?
Right. The biggest ever agency merger deal announced this week. Advertising and media giants Omnicom wants to acquire and merge with another advertising giant, IPG, in a deal valued in the many, many billions. I think it's in the teens, 13, 18 billion, something like that. A lot of money. Very splitting opinion at the moment so far. We're just a few days into this, but supporters of the deal say it's going to create these kind of unrivaled capabilities, which it will. Huge scale, leading the market in data, technology, commercial negotiations. Obviously, we talked a lot about that, and it will make the combined company the world's biggest and most powerful marketing ally to the world's leading brands. And we know that big brands like to work with big agencies. So, there's going to be some interest from certainly the bigger advertisers in that. On the flip side, some skeptics can see that, $750 million of quoted savings is going to come from somewhere. And over 60% of the costs in that business are going to be people, unfortunately. So likely to be huge layoffs. There's been a lot of duplication. We've seen that in other agency groups, big duplication, particularly on management resources, probably more at the senior level, actually. And plus, it forces some major brands into conflicts in situations with rivals. That's typically one of the risks of these consolidations. And that, the combined giant agency potentially might result in less transparency for advertisers and maybe worse service. But the deal doesn't conclude until middle of 2025. It's likely that principle of bringing those agencies together is going to be tested anyway in advance of that, probably by some of the big clients who will either support or reject it, maybe calling their bluff and starting negotiations, and maybe some might even pitch. We'll have to see. But it is a once in a decade, probably, seismic event. And the consolidation talk is totally going to dominate our world, I think, in 2025. So good thing we are back next year. You'll see later in this show, back with full MediaSnack show starting in January to keep you all updated on what you need to know in media to win amongst the competition. And if you're not subscribed yet to MediaSnack, please do so and keep up to date with this story. Okay, E is for
Elon. Now, love him or loathe him, you can't ignore him, certainly within the media and advertising world. So 2022, he goes and buys Twitter, $44 billion he invests in Twitter, rebrands it straight away to X, does a massive restructuring, makes a whole load of redundancies. The advertising community are deeply concerned about kind of control over and moderation over content. So they withdraw loads of advertising from the platform itself. He goes to a speaker conference and tells them all where to go. He's also, however, concerned about his lack of revenues and his diminishing revenues. So he goes and challenges the WFA, the World Federation of Advertisers, who have kind of established this momentum around responsible advertising. And he accuses the WFA and various factions within the WFA of encouraging advertisers to boycott the site. And so, that obviously worries the WFA. They have to make certain internal kind of changes, and it seems as though Elon has kind of finished there. Not impatient with advertising, he decides to go and support Donald Trump in the election, and now finds himself as part of Donald Trump's inner circle, and he is now part of the Department of Government Efficiency that is designed to help Donald Trump's new administration find greater efficiencies within government in the US. So he's a busy man, and you just can't ignore him. So Tom, what about D?
Okay, D. So I've got 3 words that are all part of the same thing: doubt, distrust, and design. So doubt and distrust is, unfortunately, they're still deteriorating is the word, trust between advertisers and their agencies. The insider's view from the advertisers that we speak to, and maybe within some of the forums that they're in, is that there's not a huge confidence, particularly on the media side of the media supply chain. Big doubt and distrust there. That has to be rebuilt. That's a big challenge for agencies and anyone else involved in the supply chain. The other part of the D, which is design, which is what we're finding, is that advertisers are trying to design for that. They're obviously designing to get greater transparency from the supply chain. They're designing out, and they are investing in better relationships with their agencies because they want to treat them as close partners and they want there to be trust there. They're also designing internally. They're building up their capabilities for managing media internally to give them their trust, because they get full transparency, obviously, when they're doing it themselves. So we're on this design process to kind of rebuild trust. So that's our D for this year. So I is for
one of my hot favorite topics, inventory media. I is for inventory media. And inventory media is where media agencies typically buy media at wholesale prices and then sell it on to their clients at a significant margin. And it's something that's been going on for quite a long time. It's something that is more open than it's ever been, but it's got fundamental kind of challenges to it. The most fundamental and the biggest issue with inventory media is that the client never knows the price of the media at its source, because the agencies will never disclose what they pay for the media, and thereby the clients will never know what margins are being made. So it's almost impossible to audit. So for those advertisers that have very strict auditing governance protocols within their organizations, they'll never be able to truly audit inventory media. But it's big money for the agencies, and whilst for many years they were somewhat discreet in the way that they used inventory media, it's now more prominent. So even in the latest earning calls of the big agencies, they reference the income that they're generating from inventory media, because it's a way of making very good money when perhaps other ways, traditional ways of agency income are being restricted. Now, if you're a client, there's nothing necessarily wrong with the quality of inventory media, as long as you are completely aware that you are using it. So it has to be conditional on your approval. And secondly, that perhaps you put a cap on the amount of inventory that is used through this kind of means. So inventory media is not going to go away. There are pages of legal words within contracts that enable both parties to work carefully within the realms of inventory media and principal buying, but it's something that's not going to go away. So Tom, give me A.
A, unsurprisingly, A, or one of the A's in MediaSnack, is for AI, artificial intelligence. And so if you've been anywhere around media conversation, probably any business conversation this year, you've failed to get involved in some kind of AI conversation or some challenge of either the doom and gloom or the great opportunity it's going to be. We're stuck in the middle of that. I think it relates a little bit back to the question of trust or distrust. In our view, AI has a huge potential impact in media because it's an optimization question often, and so therefore a lot of that analysis and thinking can be done quicker and quickly through AI processes. It's also, we're a very, very data rich business. So it has a really natural AI implication. The MediaSnack view of that is that there's going to be probably two ways this will play out. One is that AI becomes used for efficiency, or it calls, used for efficiency, optimization efficiency. In our view, that's the path that's created a lot of the problems in the industry to date. An efficiency drive also comes with huge risks of fraud and criminality and bad behavior, because that's what we've experienced the last 10 years of media being an efficiency drive, and a race to the bottom on cost. That's what it kind of creates, is that it commoditizes everything down to cost and efficiency perspective. And then from that, we get a lot of bad behavior that comes out of it. An alternative or parallel way to think about AI is on an effectiveness measure, and be more race to the top. And then advertisers think, what competitive advantage can AI give us to get to a better decision? Make smarter decisions, smarter buying decisions that have an positive impact on the business. So that's on where we are. We're trying to encourage marketers not to get too excited about the efficiency play, because it's going to come loaded with risk, but focus more on the effectiveness play. And where it comes back to trust is that the effectiveness play of AI, you're going to want to put that in the hands of people or companies that you trust. That's really what it comes down to. So we need more trust in media. So therefore we can build AI effectiveness capabilities on top of it. Okay, we're into the snack back half, yes. The back 9 or back 5. S is for
Song. Accenture Song. Now, this is an interesting one, and this is one to perhaps review with interest in the future. So Accenture media, creative, transformational teams, companies are now called Accenture Song. And they've struggled for a number of years to kind of land a media proposition. They're fairly good when it comes to data. They're good when it comes to creative and internal transformational programs, but they've never really landed the media operating model. Now, in Australia, they've just launched their first or their next iteration of a media agency offering. And they've got some fairly well-renowned media operators from or Initiative, I think they came from. And they've created this media operation, which is designed to challenge the conventional holding companies and the networks across the world. They talk about making 80% of the planning process automated, allowing for the remaining 20% to be focused and dedicated to the important bit, which is innovation, strategy, and smart thinking. In contrast to perhaps what many of the holding companies are doing, they are completely against proprietary media and inventory media. So they're going to have a completely transparent operating model. They want to make the client the heart of kind of their media solutions. And they're going to use all of the creative assets and all of the technologies and all of the great valuable assets that Accenture Song have to enable this to happen, but through a media lens. So if they get it right in Australia, who's to say that perhaps they don't roll this out and it becomes the next new prominent force within the media ecosystem in the next 18 months. So we'll keep an eye on the media operation from Australia within Media Song.
Very good. And they've just hired Aaron Kumar, who is chief data bigwig from IPG. They've just hired him as head of AI. So we talk about the importance of AI and they put it in the hands of people you trust. It's actually a very interesting play. As you say, they maybe don't need to go into inventory media. So what does that present for a marketer? Interesting opportunity.
Yeah, we'll see. Okay, Tom. N is for
narrative. And we talk quite a lot over the years on MediaSnack about narrative and what does that mean? And I find myself, I say it, I know you say it a lot. Sometimes you get some blank looks, so it's worth unpacking it. When we talk about narrative, we're talking typically to a CMO or a head of marketing director, or a global media leader or somebody. Narrative is obviously what you say. It's the story that you tell about media and how important it is to your brands or not. But the purpose of the narrative is it sends a signal through this very high, complex and opaque supply chain in media, which we struggle with. We know that that is a problem, gives marketers headache. The risks that come with that, the lack of transparency in the supply chain. A narrative is a wonderful, beautiful thing, because a narrative can change the tone of the entire supply chain. A CMO standing on stage, and we reference Mark Pritchard at P&G, but increasingly there's others now, stand on stage and you tell that supply chain what's important. Okay, you say, your complexity is not my problem. We demand greater transparency. We want full view of all the touches that happen to our money all the way through the supply chain. Media is important. Quality is important. We need to care about where our brands show up in the world. These are the elements of a great narrative from a marketer. It absolutely sets the tone. You've been talking about, agencies, leaning on inventory media. That's not as a result of marketer narrative. Okay. Generally, I mean, there are some obviously that are pushing on cost, and this is another way that agencies might provide a lower cost with lack of transparency. But to a lot of marketers, they are concerned about the lack of clarity on where their brand is showing up in the world. And as guardians of brands, the marketers, that does worry them. Yeah. So, and it can only be changed. It's the golden rule, is that whoever holds the gold makes the rules. The marketer, it's your budget, your narrative makes a difference. And so set a high bar for us all to clear. That's what we're going to do. Okay, A is for
the scourge of our industry, Tom. Ad fraud.
Oh dear.
Yeah, made for advertising sites, bot traffic, just huge, big, horribly designed places where advertisers lose and waste money.
I'm relieved. Because I thought when you said that, I thought you were going to say Australians, because we've talked about Mark, who lives in Australia, and then we talk about Australians, Accenture Song.
It is all
no, ad fraud. That is the real scourge of the industry. Yeah,
it's about ad fraud, and I can't bear it. And if I was a media director, and I've said this to you many times, it would be the thing that would be keeping me awake at night. The supply chain is. If you're not on top of the digital supply chain, there are so many ways, so many risky ways of wasting money, just burning money. It's not as if you're reaching the wrong type of people. You're not reaching people at all. Now, bearing in mind that our industry is nearly valued at $1 trillion, and 70% of that $1 trillion is delivered programmatically through digital platforms. Now, the vastness of that potential waste is mind-blowing. And I can't think of another industry, quite frankly, that is as unregulated given the size that we are. So, the scourge of our industry is about ad fraud, and it is incumbent on every budget holder within a brand organization, every agency representative that is responsible for spending their clients' money, to make sure that we at least minimize it, if not get rid of it completely. Tom, C is for
CTV. So for a lot of marketers, there are these kind of adjacent spend areas you've probably seen on your media plan popping up in recent years, like retail media, CTV, and actually CTV is one component of what we used to call TV. So there's lots of different kind of versions of how we get in front of people, in their large screens in their home. TV seems like a dirty word these days, so it's got lots of all these other different acronyms. But for CTV particularly, it's increasing method by which people are buying what we call TV advertising. It is growing rapidly. Probably we're anticipating double spend increase over the next 3 or 4 years within CTV. So marketers are paying a lot of attention to it. They're increasingly asking companies like us to help them navigate and make better quality decisions. It's harder because obviously a lot of it is traded programmatically or in biddable environments. It does lack some transparency. It's a bit of a chaotic market. It requires some consolidation and simplicity, and it requires companies like us to be allowed to come in and audit that stuff better for marketers. That's what we're being asked to do increasingly. So it's an area of focus for marketers, increasing area of spend, still comes with lots of transparency issues which we're trying to address and apply better auditing practices to CTV. Mm-hmm. Right then, last one, K. It's always a tricky one, K, but What have you got?
Not this year. K is for KPIs.
Right.
And KPIs are absolutely critical because they define and establish the behaviors with which you as a marketeer will be measured. You mentioned earlier on the importance of defining a narrative, having a clear strategic narrative within the marketplace. Well, KPIs are your North Star when it comes to that. Because if you have the right strategic KPIs, if they are value driven, if they are designed around growth and outcomes rather than cost and price and savings, your entire organization and your agency partners will be pointing in the right direction. And that direction is about delivering growth for your business. So KPIs are absolutely critically internally to get absolutely right.
Regular viewers of our MediaSnack end of the year will know that we always close out the show with our word of the year, and we look ahead to the year ahead, and we try and find a word that we think sums up what really is going to be going through marketers' heads or what their motivation is. Our word for 2024, you might remember, was care. We expected marketers just to care a little bit more about where their brands show up in the world, care about their strategic partnerships, care about where their money goes, all of these kind of things. And I think we've seen quite a lot of that happening. Our word for the year ahead is winning. And we don't say that lightly. We mean that is really marketers getting back to effectiveness measures and competitive advantage and all of that kind of good, healthy stuff. So winning is our word of the year. And to celebrate that and to just bring that to life, we mentioned MediaSnack. The MediaSnack podcast that you know and love is coming back. It will be back next month, and it's going to be called MediaSnack Winning because we're going to focus on the things that help marketers win in media. So unpack that for a bit, David. What are we going to be giving marketers in the MediaSnack Winning show?
So the marketers that we're going to be talking about and the topics that we're going to be talking to them about are going to be contained around how media and marketing can help brands win in this competitive marketplace. And what are the kind of core traits and behaviors that our winning marketeers and winning media leaders exhibit? Number one, they see media as an investment and not a cost. Number two, they see refining, evolving, and adapting their media management processes as a direct link to competitive advantage. They obsess about extracting the greatest value from their media investments. They are focused on getting disproportionate value from those media investments because if they do, then they know that they will win. And the other thing that the really good marketeers do, the really great media people do, which actually was a word of the year a few years back, is they are able to simplify the crazily complex and confusing marketplace that we operate in, because it's never been more inspiring. But simplifying their processes, making sure that they hold those media dollars accountable. Those are the traits of winners in 2025.
Very good. And we'll be exploring all those and more on the new MediaSnack Winning show. We look forward to seeing you join us next month for that.
See you then.